Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back from lunch, everyone. I'm happy to have you here at the Successful Team seminar or panel. I think most of you have talked to an investor during this event, and I think you ask them, what do you invest in? B2B SaaS. No, I invest in electrification. Oh, I do only software. But one thing is true for all of them, and that's that we all invest in people. My name is Gerda Mazi Larsson. I'm the CEO at Curitas Ventures, a Stockholm-based VC, and I work with venture capital for two reasons. One, I think it's a driver of societal change, and two, I love people. So, with me today, I have this great panel that I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. There is years of experience here, and you're gonna be learning a lot. So everyone with computers, I guess you're ready, just taking notes here and quotes that you're gonna post on LinkedIn later today. Their name is the same as their LinkedIn pages, so just go ahead. We'll start with asking one question. Who are you, and what is a successful team?
Okay, my name is Katarina Bonde. I'm Swedish by birth, but I have spent pretty much the last 30 years back and forth between the US and Sweden, 15 years working as CEO in various companies, and today I serve on a number of boards, both public and private equity and owner-owned. And this means that I built a number of teams in various ways, myself, but also through other people. And to be very honest, a successful team is a team that accomplishes what the team was supposed to do. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you had fun, if you didn't have fun. If the team did what they were supposed to do, it was successful. But there are fun ways to do it too.
Deqa?
Hello. Yes. Hi, my name is Deqa Abukar, and I'm the co-founder of BLING. The last 10 years, I and my team have helped over 10,000 entrepreneurs get their startups. So I've met a lot of teams. I built my own team, so I'm very familiar with building teams and meeting entrepreneurs in a very early stage. For me, a successful team, except the good things that you said, if I can add on, is that they have a group mentality. The individualism is not there. It's more how the group can succeed together, and they have group mentality in everything.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fredrixon. I'm a partner of Norrsken Launcher. We're a new fund within the Norrsken ecosystem, and we invest in innovation-based radical solutions that can really change the world for the better, an Article 9 fund. And my passion in life, just like you, Gerda, I love people and the culture, and that's what I worked with. Before going into the venture capital world, I used to work as a chief HR officer at Truecaller and at Livy. So I've really been part of scaling teams from 10 to 2,500 people and seen the different stages, which is extremely rewarding. And that's what I love doing as well now as an investor. And totally agree with you around teams. Of course, you need to do the mission and achieve the mission you have. But I think a great team is also a team where you play and work on each other's strengths. So not on each other's weaknesses. So a great team is when you all can find like, this is my unique skill and this is mine. And together, you're so much greater than the individual. And then when working in a company, I think the saying company before team, team before self is a very valid saying. Having that thinking all the time, that's when you really can build something that will last.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Peter Wolpert. I'm the CEO of Industrifonden. So I'm an entrepreneur. I built companies, took small companies to listed them in Sweden, and also sold to US private equity. I lived a couple of years in the US. I used to work as a management consultant a long time ago, and I'm truly interested in mathematics and in racket sports. 2 years ago, I came back to Sweden and I took over as the CEO of Industrifonden. We're investing in great innovations, in great teams. We're managing about 5 billion Swedish. We have a portfolio of 60 portfolio companies. And that is a lot about building teams. I think if you've been building companies, and that is what I truly love. I love to build companies with great teams and to really see those companies run through a journey, because there are very few things in life that are more fun than being able to do that. And to me, I think when you're building a company and running through a journey that it is to take a startup to a scale up and getting it to 100 million of Swedish kronor in turnover, you will have many challenges and you will have difficult moments. And for me, a great team is a high trust team, a team where you can bring topics, if they're positive or negative, if you have different opinions, but you feel that within the team you can discuss freely and openly the really difficult topics. That's a great team to me.
Thank you. As you hear, amazing panel. Let's give them an applaud already, just for the first answer. Get some energy up in here. Good, good, good. Okay. So, a man once said to me that building a diverse team is really hard. They recruit women, but they never stay. And that was their big issue. Anna, you have the experience of building teams and building and trying to get people to stay. Because, I mean, 2,500 people, the most expensive thing for the company would be if they quit, no? So can you talk a little bit about recruiting, but also how you keep talent within a company?
Well, it's a big question that I will try then to summarize in a more condensed form. Well, if we start with recruiting people, if you're an entrepreneur and you're a startup, what you're selling a dream, right? Because so you need to have that, the storytelling, because you are about to build something, but probably you're not there yet. And you cannot compete with the highest salary. You can just work on the dream that you're going to achieve together. So I think it's a lot about finding the people who are sharing your dream and when you can work on how to get there together. So it's much more about storytelling. If you're a big corporate, you have the recruitment process and the phases, and this is, the comp and ben scheme, and this is the role, and this is the career levels and matrix. That does not exist in a startup. And that's the magic. So everyone you recruit needs to be a builder. And it's very creative because there are no processes, probably. And there's no one to ask. There's no IT support or whatever. You need someone who comes in and just want to join something. So it's very different recruitment-wise. Then, of course, it's great if the dream that you're selling and what you say, how you're working, actually then correlates with how it is. So you're not selling Lamborghini and then it's Skoda, Lada, whatever. Because that sometimes happens. We're all for having fun, diversity team, and then maybe that's not the case when you join. So make sure that the expectations are right. And then how do you get people to stay? Well, the simple way is probably the Dan Pink, autonomy, mastery, purpose. You give them autonomy, you empower them, you let them be involved and really own the work, and you give them freedom to work. Mastery, they learn lots of things. They get to work with great, smart people. They feel that they're thriving and progressing. And purpose, you're working for this dream or the higher vision that you're all buying into. And I think if you're fulfilling that, then you probably will have people who are staying in the company.
Interesting. Deqa, you look like you have...
No, I agree.
You just agree.
I was just
nothing to add. Just agree.
I think a very important part to make people stay with the company, because like you said, it's, the more people you have, the more expensive it is if you have to consistently re-recruit. People stay in a place where they feel that they belong. And to feel that you belong, one of the ways to do that is to build trust. And to build trust is usually about information sharing. And I find that the best path to create this is start early on and share what's going on. Everyone in the company needs to share both successes and failures, because you're going to have both. You need to share everything about what's happening, what are people working on. It could be as simple as an email going out once a week to everyone. It can be through Slack channels. It can be through a number of different ways. But it has to be a process, otherwise it doesn't happen by itself. So if you're the team leader and you're building a team, you're the entrepreneur starting something, make sure you put it on your calendar at least once a week. Share with everyone what's going on. So if I get to know what's going on, I feel that I'm trusted. And if I feel that I'm trusted, I feel that like I belong, and I want to continue to belong.
Can I have two people that want to add?
Yeah, can I add something? Yeah. And I think before we come to that part of recruiting and keeping talent, you have to have you have to have a clear intention of why you want to recruit. For example, we meet startups at a very early stage, and they take in talent or recruitment based on how they're going to take themselves to the next milestone. Instead of, if you're going to build this kind of trust, and if you're going to have all of this energy put into an employee, then you should recruit for a long term, instead of thinking, okay, I need a tech guy for my next round of investment. So you should, from the beginning as a startup, think long term when you are recruiting, so you can actually put in the energy and the time it takes to keep them and to build that trust.
Yeah, I guess if you're building something with a small team, you need really strong commitment and involvement. So the question is really how do you create that? And I think what Katarina said about keeping the involvement level very high, making sure that you share information and that people can see the vision, that they buy that they want to contribute it, and they can see actually that what they do will make a difference. That helps a lot, and if you get that going, it creates a positive momentum which will make people stay, and you can never replace that with financial incentives. You may lose people if you don't have the right financial incentives, but you cannot make them stay if they're not fully involved and really committed to what you're doing.
Yeah. So expectation management, long-term commitments. But then whose responsibility is this to make sure this happens? We have young entrepreneurs, they're starting their first company, maybe a quite inexperienced board, or in some cases very experienced boards. But whose responsibility is it?
Well, in my world, it's whoever leads the team. It doesn't matter what level you're at. If you have a team, it's your responsibility to communicate. You can have someone who, if I'm not a good, let's say I'm the entrepreneur and I realize, or someone's told me that it's important to share information, and I feel, oh, I'm so bad at writing. Well, yes, you can have someone who is really good at communication, or if the company is larger, you have the communications manager, but it's still my responsibility to make sure it happens. I can't say, oh, the communications department didn't do their job. No, I didn't do my job of telling them what's going on so they can put it into some nice verbiage. It's always my responsibility.
Can I add on? Especially in the start, when you're a startup and you have a vision and you want people to get attached to that vision and share same values, it has to come from that person. Because if that person doesn't believe in their vision and cannot communicate their vision, it will be really hard in the future too. So it's really important that, as Katarina said, it's the leader, the founder maybe especially, who has the biggest responsibility.
Peter?
Well, it's obviously a leadership responsibility, but then I would say in a small company like this, everyone needs to contribute. Everyone creates the work environment for everyone around you. And I think when it comes to hybrid working and the thing being back to the office or not, I think everyone needs to understand that what you do doesn't only affect yourself, but it affects the whole team. And you need to contribute to that responsibility.
You once told me, Peter, that a leadership commitment must be absolute, all the time and absolute. And I really like that. I've taken that with me and thought about it a lot. I think it says something about that it's a never-ending job, no, that we're doing when we're coaching a team or being a leader. And anyone can be a leader, no? Or do you have to be a boss to be a leader?
No, anyone can be a leader. And leadership is communication. And I think people underestimate the value of communication. If I think about all the things that did not go as planned, it's usually due to lack of communication, that I thought that communicated something but it wasn't received that way, or usually under-communicated. I would say it's extremely rare that a problem happens because you over-communicate. So communication is key. We should probably spend much more time on thinking about how we communicate. And I usually say, even if you don't have something to communicate, then you can communicate that you don't have any news. Because if you, like, nothing's happening, so I'm not going to say anything. Well, then people start suspecting, like, oh, is something bad going on? Because they're very quiet. Ooh. And then you create this, an organization thinking about bad things. But actually, that might not be true. So communicate all the time. Just over-communicate.
Over-communicate. So, I mean, we have 4 very successful people here on stage, but you can't have gotten here without making any mistakes. Someone that dares sharing a mistake or a learning that you've taken with you on this journey.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I've done millions of mistakes. But again, I think like communication mistakes, when I have believed that, but of course this is, you know, I didn't even understand I needed to tell you that. I just assumed you would have understand. That's like a common mistake, because as a leader, you have more information than any other person in the room, and sometimes you forget that you have that position and advantage. So you need to remind yourself that I'm actually a few steps ahead, and I need to go back and explain for everyone in the organization what's going on in my team. So I think that's a mistake that I've done, communication-wise, not really being clear on where the baseline is.
Peter?
There are many to choose from, but I think I would choose recruitment, actually, because those are some of the more costly ones. So a company I founded maybe 20 years ago together with a friend, and he was really the specialist expert in that field. And we worked maybe 6 to 12 months, and then we decided we wanted to hire an external CEO. And we thought we understood what we were looking for, but we hired a very capable person. But it turned out that we haven't really done our homework and really communicated about what our roles should be when that person was going to assume the CEO role. And to make that, we would have done a lot more homework to make that successfully. It did not go well, and we ended as friends, parted as friends, but it was a costly mistake. One out of several.
Deqa, Katarina?
Well, I think when it comes to communicating in a team, or building a team, a lot of the mistakes are, well, one, of course, is what you've talked about, that you hinted at, the lack of communication. You're not saying anything. And, I mean, it could be a company as small as 10 people. I actually came across such a company the other day where one person, the team leader, is running around doing all the sales work, bringing in customers, and doesn't think that that has anything to do with the programmers who are sitting there, and they have no clue what's going on. Which means that their whole motivation falters because you're sitting there. You have no idea why you're doing it, what you're doing it for. So when it comes to building teams, I think the lack of communication, which is usually not one incident, but it's that slippery, slowly slope, and the one that I'm thinking of a lot is the lack of building a team and bridging over cultural differences, which when I was new in the US, I lived in Seattle. I was running a division which was based in St. Louis. That's 4 hours flight away from Seattle. So I worked there during the week, and I flew back in the weekends and this is before you could do very much hybrid or remote work. The first week I assessed, and I went around and looked at what people were doing, and I did what I used to do when I was a CEO in Sweden. I was sharing with people what I was thinking, and so I said to the management team, well, we were talking about a particular group manager. He doesn't seem to really do his job. He doesn't really belong here, I think. But, I have my doubts about him. I left. I went home for the weekend. I came back on Monday. The guy was gone. And I just said, what happened? Well, you said you didn't like him, so we fired him. Okay. So I would say that's one of the few times where I have found that being very transparent and oversharing can actually lead to huge misunderstandings. And so one thing is that we need to also understand that communication is different in different cultures. And that's something that you also have experienced. I know, Peter, we talked about that.
Yeah, I think for most of the startups, the US market is essential, and I think it's interesting over time. You're starting a small Swedish company, you're having your technology development here, and then you want to commercialize, and of course you want to commercialize in the US. And I think that is an extremely interesting step for a company to take. There's so many different ways of doing it, and the cultural differences are huge, and you need to find your solution to how you do that. And I can give you one example from what we did when I started Moberg Pharma in 2006. We developed for a few years, and then we launched, got to success in the Nordics, and then we wanted to find a partner in the US. We went to Business Sweden. They helped us to find 5 candidates, companies that we could partner with. 4 of them were totally not for us, but we were lucky, and you need luck. So the 5th one was actually perfect fit. It was a great fit because they had a CEO, small company, they were like 7 people. They had a brand that we wanted to use our product under, and they had a great private equity investor. So we worked together, we launched on CVS, Walmart, and so on, and it went beautifully. And then we acquired a US company, and the CEO, that was my guy in the US, he was very faithful. He stayed for the exact 2 years that he committed to stay. But then I needed to replace him and find a US general manager. And I used recruiters in the US. We met a lot of different people that have been super successful in the US environment. But to find someone that could bridge both the US environment, what is needed there, and could work well with the blended US-Swedish team, that was the challenge. And again, I got lucky, so we got Jeff, and Jeff was fantastic. Nowadays, one of my best friends, so we worked together. And he had, the mix of, knowing the business environment there, but having worked internationally, worked with European companies. And you need to be able to bridge that. You need Swedes that worked in the US, and you need Americans that had this international experience. So we built a culture in the US company that was Swedish influenced, but it wasn't a Swedish company. It was a US company, but you tried to take the good parts and mix that into the culture. That actually worked very well. So that was a sunshine story.
Picking the raisins out of the cookie, as we would say, or yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think, if you're scaling your company to the US, you know which 2 of our panelists you should look for in the other room later. But one thing that I've been thinking about a lot during the seminars I've listened to is that everyone has been talking about winter's coming. I mean, the Game of Thrones guys or girls, I don't actually know who did them, but what a job they did getting that on everyone's lips as as a way of describing what's been going on in the financial world. So, winter has been coming. It's been cold in the finance world. We've all seen down rounds. We see teams getting sliced. We see all of these things happening. As shareholders, we all sit, or owners of companies, on a lot of power. So when this happens, what do you do as an owner or shareholder in the company to continue pushing for team as being one important component when revenue is scarce?
I can begin maybe. We invest really, really early stage, pre-seed, seed, and there you basically invest in the team or the founders. So if you want that company to continue and you want to see them succeed, you have to invest in the people. So they have to stay some way, somehow. And I think one of our strategies is just to always show them that we are supporting them and we actually want them to succeed. We become more like family and friends rather than an investor. I think there's always a power balance between the investor and the entrepreneur, but we try to eliminate that when it comes to us wanting the team to push further and trying to make them like understand they are the keys to whatever this idea is to succeed. So you have to remind the entrepreneur that they are actually the keys, not the ideas, not the money, it's not the capital. Even though those things are important, it's back to the individual. So we try to support them as friends almost.
I think one thing that is really important is that you create a plan, and this is, you know, both for the entrepreneurs to think about, for the boards of those companies to think about, is when you create your business plan for something that you want to build, or when you recreate your plan throughout the life of the company, most people think, well, I'm going to describe my product, I'm going to describe how I sell it, I'm going to describe the price, blah, blah, blah. But you also have to describe your plan for how you're going to build the teams, how you're going to build the people. How are you going to work? Where are you going to work? Also take into, this communication plan. How are we going to talk to each other? What are we sharing with each other? What is the structure going to be? Why are we going to have that structure? Maybe you want to build in, as part of your company, to have job rotation. Maybe that's part of it. But this is as much a part, in my view, of a plan for a company. You don't just build a product, because today, like you were saying, every company has in common that there are at least one human person. Sure, there's going to be AI bots that create companies soon too, but let's keep that to the side. So you have to have a plan for exactly how the company is going to work from a team and HR aspect. And so then when you fall on hard times, well, then you have to start changing your processes a bit. Then you may have to rethink how big the team is. And I think in preparation for this, you should reorganize your company at least once a year. Make people understand that when you work in these environments, that's the fun part of it. You get to do different jobs. You do job rotation. There's no shame in downsizing a company, and some people will move, but they will remain, if you've done a good job, they will remain good ambassadors for your company. So think of it as, yeah, we want teams, we want people to belong, but they can marry into another family too, and that's okay. They will become distant cousins, and that's fine.
Yes, yeah. Peter?
Well, just to follow on that, I think, of course, when you're investing as a syndicate in a company, and this is one of the reasons we want syndicates, because we know, times may get rough. You have your plan A, but then plan A may not materialize, and the financial climate is tougher. So I think you need always the board, the main shareholders and the management need to be prepared for plan B. And nobody would say that it's easy, because that will involve people. And I think the leadership commitment that we talked about before is even more important in those situations. You may need to downsize. It's super important that everyone that has a senior position really helps the team also so they can find good positions outside the company. But you need to be ready to make those decisions, redesign. You learn a lot. Sometimes you tested your pilot market, it didn't work out. You need to pivot, and that may be that you need to change the organization. So those are tough decisions. That's the the most difficult ones, I would say, but they are necessary. If you don't do this, this is really hard, what we're trying to do. We're trying to build new companies, new ideas, new technologies. It's not an easy game. You have to have luck, you have to be super determined, you have to care about people, and you have to adjust.
Yeah, and I think about, just as you say, it's about changing. Things change. You have a plan, and then usually things don't go as planned. And what is important is that you take a decision, and you take the decision based on the information you have, which is probably not perfect. And then you get some more information and realize you need to revise your decision, and that's how it goes. But the worst thing you can do is to not take a decision at all and hope that with time things will just solve, because that in itself is a decision, and it's usually the worst decision. So take a decision, and then being transparent with the organization, like, yep, we took this decision, we thought we were going this way, now this happened, and we need to go this way. So, and then we're coming back to the communication part. That's why it's so important you're communicating what you're doing and why you're doing it all the time. But taking the tough decisions, yeah, you need to do it and not wait.
Yeah. Is there a quick question from the audience? I'll throw out the opportunity now. Scouting around. Did not give you a heads up. Maybe it's hard. Well, you know where to find us. So I think there's a lot of things we can learn here. And there's a lot of things around leadership that is a continuous learning journey, according to you guys. So, I mean, sometimes when it's hard, what then inspires you to keep on fighting for the teams? I mean, you, Katarina, have been in teams, well, for a long time, and as a board member. So when everything isn't the best, where do you find your energy?
This is obviously different for different people, where we find our energy. I thrive in the meeting with other people, so I get a lot from that. But I also know that some people aren't like that. Some people need to, spend some time by themselves and re-energize that way. And this is something that you need to understand when you work with your team. You need to understand what motivates each person, what makes them tick. You can't have a team where someone is completely antisocial and never communicates with anyone. But you need to understand, who are the ones in the team that really over-communicate. And then you also need to understand that some people, and usually the ones who, talk the least, often have the most interesting thoughts inside. So my job as a leader is to ask them questions. So I think that's a very important thing to drag out of everyone on the, and sometimes that means that I need to do more one-on-ones with some people, because they're not going to talk that much when someone else is in the room. And then, so you really need to work with your group. And it's even harder when when I'm the chair of the board, and my team is other board members that I see, live, maybe once every 2 months. Yeah, we may have phone meetings and whatnot, but that team is even harder to keep together, because they spend most of their time thinking about something completely different than the company where they're on the board. So then I really have to do other things to keep them thinking of this company, to keep them motivated and energized. So I need to consistently come up with things that I need to connect with them. I need to throw out an email. Did you see this article in the paper? Look at this industry, it's connecting to ours. What do you think? So when you have a team that you don't see that often, you need to connect with them much more. And I actually schedule it. For the various boards I work with, I have every week in my calendar, I have a time, Katarina, did you think about reaching out to them? Because otherwise the weeks go by and I may forget about it.
And Deqa, how do you continue to support the people around you, and what do you want to say to the small startups that's just getting started? on this question?
I'm really similar to you, but I think for me, it's just a clear understanding that you cannot do a lot without a team. Like the importance of a team is always there. I'm strong on my own, but I know I'm much stronger with them. So it's just, for me, it's a necessary thing. They're not just an add-on. It's just they are actually a part of the vision or of the goal that we want to reach. So they have to feel good, and I have to feel good. So it's a give and take relationship. But something that I want to give to the audience is that when you're building a team, think about like that you're going to invest in building a team. So again, long-term investment and recruit from that perspective rather than recruit someone because it feels good right now. And another thing is that being conscious about your biasness. A good team is a good team that had different skills, different perspectives, different backgrounds, and you can define different backgrounds however you want, but that's what a good team should, in my perspective, be. So be really cautious about your biasness and recruit long term.
So we're all getting the ingredients to the secret sauce right now. All the secrets are being spilled. Anna, Peter, what do you say? What do you want to send people home with?
No, I was just reflecting while talking here, because we've been talking a lot about communicating, and I think we like to talk, as you can see and hear. But let's not confuse communication with talking a lot. That's not the same thing. I don't expect, and I don't want to have a company where you're supposed to be the one who talks the most and always on stage and is always taking up the room and space. That's not the perfect communicator. Like, communication is about conveying the message you want to say that captures the audience, so it can be targeted. And you can be an introvert or an extrovert, and you can do it verbally or written, and you can speak, very few sentences or not. So I just want to say that, also going back to diversity, you need to find a way of communicating and leading that fits with your personality and values. You can never try to be something you're not. The same goes then with teams. If you're leading a team, you need to find what works for this team. So I've led people and culture teams. We're super social, people-loving persons. We love teamwork and brainstorming exercises and doing things together, whilst that might not at all fit with another type of team. So you need to find out what works for this team, what motivates people, how can I include everyone? Maybe brainstorming exercises is not a great idea if you have lots of introverts who want to reflect first. So think about the team you're leading, find out what motivates them. A good way is asking them. Sometimes people forget to ask. You can always ask, like, what's your drive? What motivates you? How can I help you? So
Peter.
Ask questions, and the same for the team.
Yeah. Peter, last 15 seconds.
Okay, I'll pick up on what Anna said earlier. I think I love stories, and most people love stories. So for me, to decompress and find energy can be to read stories. I love fiction. I would not spend a lot of time to read management literature. But I think also when you work as a team, what you're actually doing, you're building a story together. And make sure that you take care of your contribution to that story, that you care for everyone that is involved in it, and then I'm sure it will be a great story.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We will be standing a little bit down there if you want to meet up, ask any questions.